Hello and welcome. We start with West Africa, where the junta-led states are forging closer ties with Russia. In the latest, Mali's ruling military junta and Russia's state nuclear company Rosatom have signed 3 nuclear cooperation deals. The two sides have discussed projects including a Russian-designed low-power nuclear power plant. Rosatom delegation met the leader of Mali's junta, Assimi Goïta, on the 2nd and 3rd of July, as per the firm's statement. It held negotiations with junta officials responsible for the economy, energy and education. The two sides discussed a strategic project to build a Russian-designed low-power nuclear power plant in Mali, while they also discussed solar power generation and geological exploration projects. However, Rosatom did not give details about the proposed low-power nuclear power plant. Now, this is Russia's latest attempt to grow its nuclear footprint in Africa. For years, Russia has been seeking to attract business by signing cooperation agreements with countries across the continent. Currently, the only operational nuclear power station on the African continent is South Africa's Coup nuclear plant. However, many African countries are eyeing nuclear power to solve their electrification challenge. Russia has meanwhile sensed an opportunity to forge new economic ties in the region to mitigate the impact of Western sanctions imposed due to its war in Ukraine. It has been quick to pledge its support to African countries with nuclear energy ambitions. Russia is already constructing the $30 billion Al-Dabar nuclear power plant in Egypt, which has been dubbed as one of the 2 largest nuclear construction projects in the world. Now, it has also signed nuclear energy cooperation agreements with Burkina Faso and Algeria. Now, a part of this push also includes strengthening ties with juntas in West Africa's Sahel region. Now, the 3 junta-led states in the region, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, have recently formed their own alliance, and they have ditched the West African bloc, ECOWAS. Now, these nations have turned to Russia to solve their internal security challenges, such as terrorism, and they have Russian military instructors who have been training their army to fight the terrorists and insurgents, while the 3 nations have kicked out Western troops from their territories. Now, Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso have turned away from traditional Western allies and have been deepening cooperation with Russia. So, shifting alliances and these allegiances, West Africa, too, like several other parts of the world, is witnessing a geopolitical face-off between Russia and the West. Now, for more, we are being joined by Paul Melly. Paul is a consulting fellow at Africa Program at the International Affairs think tank Chatham House. He joins us live from London. Thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon.
Now, what are the specific goals and motivations behind Mali's junta signing cooperation deals with Russia's state nuclear company Rosatom? How does this partnership align with Mali's energy needs and long-term development plans?
Well, I think the motivation is actually less about energy in a way and more about just deepening the partnership with Russia. As you've been explaining, Mali, like its neighbors Burkina Faso and Niger, is now ruled by a military junta that overturned an a democratically elected civilian government in a coup, as happened in those other countries as well. And under these new military leaders, there's been this conscious decision to step away from the traditional alliances and partnerships with Western countries, with the European Union, with France, with the US, and also the ECOWAS West African bloc, whose governance rules, although sometimes member states breach them, whose governance rules commit governments to civilian rule in elected multi-party political systems. So in making a break with all of that,
Right, and
countries such as
Paul,
Mali are
you
trying
have
to
mentioned
build an
it.
alliance
What
with
is the
Russia.
impact on the regional dynamics, given that Rosatom has been actively seeking business opportunities in Africa? How might this nuclear partnership impact regional dynamics in West Africa and the Sahel region? Like, what implications could it have for neighboring countries and their energy policies?
I don't really think it's very much to do with energy. As I said, the Mali and the other Sahel states have deliberately broken with the traditional partnerships, both with the West and with their neighbors in coastal West Africa. And so they're in a way, signing a nuclear deal is a very public, high-profile way for Russia to signal to Mali that it is prepared to engage in a level of support and cooperation that Western countries wouldn't do. But whether Russia will actually live up to that and contemplate seriously building a nuclear power plant in a country where the energy demand is high but fragile, people are on very low incomes, so the economics of the nuclear power sector are difficult, and where there's a huge security threat. There are very large tracts of Mali that are either controlled by armed jihadist groups or under direct threat from armed jihadist groups. And so that's what leads one to question how serious Russia's intention is. Of course, it would reduce Mali's electricity imports in theory from coastal West Africa. It would help to make it more independent of countries such as Côte d'Ivoire, who supply electricity at the moment. But I think this is more of a political gesture, a diplomatic gesture, than anything short term. And if you look at the comments made by the Russians and the Malians after this agreement, they're pretty vague. They're talking about maintaining contact and exchanging ideas in a rather broad brush term. Where it would be more significant possibly is that Niger, one of the three Sahelian countries, does have uranium and is a major uranium producer. So it's possible in the very long term that you could develop a nuclear sector. People in the Sahelian countries sometimes say, well, why can't we have a nuclear power sector such as they have in Europe, in France, for example? But the economics are very difficult, and the security context is extremely challenging.
Absolutely. And of course, it does signal a shift away from the traditional Western allies for Mali. What implications might this have?
Well, I think we're still in a very early phase. These countries, it's basically since 2020 that these military regimes have taken power and begun to divorce themselves from the traditional partnerships. And it's going to be quite a few years, I think, before we really see how the shape of West Africa pans out, because there are actually very deep social and economic reasons that tie the Sahel countries to their coastal neighbors, the states that remain, if you like, in a close partnership with Europe and more broadly with the West. There are huge numbers of migrant workers, for example, in the Sahelian countries who live in coastal West Africa, millions of workers. So these ties are very deep. Mali is a landlocked country. Its main routes to the sea are through Senegal and through Côte d'Ivoire. So I think it's going to, in that regional context, it's going to be quite some time before we see exactly how far this pans out, and whether the Sahel countries, in fact, do persist in pursuing this very different course or not. And that internal politics is also going to be a factor, because we're beginning to see movements of protest in these countries, and the regimes are responding by cracking down. They're locking people up and trying to impose their power by authoritarian methods, if you like.
Right. Paul, thank you very much for being with us and your valued insights on all the latest coming out of Mali.
You're very welcome.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree for humanity, one tree for Mother Earth, one tree for our future. Project One Tree, a News 18 network initiative.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter.
We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment. So thank you for making Firstpost 5 million strong. We're counting on your support, and you can trust us to bring you the news unfiltered and unvarnished. On the show today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon has moved across to the West Indies. What can you expect from this?
Hello, I'm Alyson coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
Start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. The first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Aaron Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.